Hello, everyone. Our assessment that we picked for our presentation is a CERT-Psych assessment, which stands for Comprehensive Evaluation in Recreational Therapy, Psych Behavioral Revised. My name is Morgan.
I'm Quinn.
And this assessment was published in 1990.
So to begin, we already told you the name, but once again, it's the CERT-Psych assessment. Stands for the Comprehensive Evaluation in Recreational Therapy, Psych/Behavioral, and the R stands for Revised.
So the purpose is to identify, define, and evaluate behaviors relevant to a person's ability to successfully integrate into society using his or her social skills and determining their therapy goals. It's also used extensively to document changes in a client's social interaction skills resulting from longer-term therapy programs, especially in larger state facilities.
The population that this assessment is typically used on is youth and adult clients with a developmental age of at least 10 years old. This assessment works very well with populations of psychiatric and rehabilitation facilities.
So the source of this assessment is found in the Assessment Tools for Recreation Therapy and Related Fields, the Big Red Book in page 326, and it's also published by the Idle Arbor Incorporation. It's the 4th edition in 2010.
The cost is relatively low. We found it to be priced at about $22 for a scoring packet.
And the time to administer, it takes 5 minutes to score after observing the client in a group activity, which is usually less than 20 minutes.
Something else that we want to note is that there have been many departmentally developed rating scales used at individual facilities, but there's no one scale that is uniformly used that provides a common point of reference for therapeutic recreation.
So the construct and content being measured. The construct being measured, it identifies and defines behaviors related to therapeutic recreation, and it provides a more objective means for rating clients on these behaviors. Some of the constructs being measured would be social skills and functional skills.
And then we are going to dive into the content areas. In general, there are 3 different categories that are looking at the leisure and social content areas. So we have a general category, an individual performance category, and a group performance category. The general category is basically looking at the behaviors that are not specifically relevant to TR, but they are behaviors that provide the therapist with an indication of the general lifestyle of the client.
The individual performance is the one-to-one behavior, which reflects how a client responds and how receptive they are to seeking help in a one-to-one relationship, and how the client can handle authority. And this gives clues as to whether a group or individual approach would be best for the client in therapy.
And then the last category is group performance. It is group-oriented, and the therapist is viewed as a process, and the therapy is viewed as a process that uses activity as a treatment medium. The therapist may select an activity specifically to deal with behaviors that are already demonstrated by the group.
So getting into validity and reliability, we were not able to find any evidence of reported results of validity as of 2010. There's a lack of research for the validity. In the first edition of the assessment for recreational therapy in 1990, they reported that a formal evaluation of the validity of the scale was in progress. They are going to study predictive validity, but the edition of our book mentions that no results have been reported since 1990. And after doing more extensive research online, we have concluded that there has not been any additional changes in terms of research results from 2010 to 2020.
So basically the information that we have in our book that's 10 years old is the same information that we have available to us now on the web. It's also good for us to note that there is no evidence-based theory reported for this assessment. So having a lack of validity research is really unfortunate for the field of TR because there has not been any recent research on the validity, and this makes us question if the assessment is valid or reliable to use or not use. Reliability.
Sure, so the reliability, to what extent there's high reliability noted in 2010, but there needs to be more recent results.
So some of the evidence that we found in the book and online would be that between 38 therapists, they had scores that ranged from 67 to 100% agreement, which averaged at 91% agreement. And how that was measured is basically they took the number of agreements of the therapist and divided that by the agreements and disagreements added together.
So some strengths of this assessment is that there are general behaviors, individual and group behaviors.
Another strength would be that this assessment has the ability to document subtle changes for the clients. Reading into this assessment, I found some really interesting aspects of it that really helps strengthen the use. The Big Red Book mentioned the assessment's ability to document the subtlest changes in behavior, which could be really helpful in specific populations such as corrections, behavioral health, addictions, or rehab units.
It's also very short to score after administering, so it only takes 5 minutes to score after observing the behaviors.
Another strength would be the low cost for administering. Like we mentioned, it was only $22 for the scoring packet.
It also applies to a wide range of treatment settings, so it applies to settings such as short-term acute care, psychiatric, and rehabilitation settings, and in longer-term therapy situations. It can also be used in departments such as nursing, therapeutic recreation, social work, psychology, and occupational therapy, and this then allows recreational therapists to clearly communicate with the other departments and to relate to clients' progress.
And lastly, we think that another strength would be that it allows more time for active treatment for therapy sessions. So basically, this means that the scale can also double up as a progress note, and in turn, it will save the therapist a great deal of time when it comes to documenting and writing. And saving that time means that it allows them to identify more significant behaviors that occur for the client, and then therefore they can work on those instead of spending all their time writing.
But overall, it's a good tool to document clients' interactions after each treatment session. It measures the changes that may be a result of medications and identify change over a period of time. And this goes back to the assessment having the ability to document the subtle changes.
And then, so some of the weaknesses, I know the strengths look like it outweighs the weaknesses, but for what we have, we think it's a little bit more important. The lack of research on the assessment validity, and then the need for more recent reliability data kind of weakens the assessment. And then overall, we just think it's pretty outdated.
So would we use this assessment? A reason why we said yes is that it has high reliability with observing behaviors and clear definitions of behaviors.
A reason why we would maybe use the assessment, the fact that it's the most frequently used assessment tool in recreation therapy, and then also the fact that it has a lot to offer for our profession.
And then no, because of the lack of research on validity and needing more recent results on reliability. So personally, I would probably not use this assessment because there's not extensive research backing up the data and process. And this assessment is said to be the most frequently used assessment in TR, but I think that it is out of date and needs more recent results in order to use this assessment. Quinn, would you use this assessment?
I'm somewhere in the middle of whether or not I would use it. I really like the fact that it is highly recognized and widely used in our field, but the lack of research and the limited use and research on the different variety of populations, as well as having no evidence on the validity, makes me lean towards not using it. I think it has really high potential and has a lot to offer for our profession, but we wouldn't see that potential until we are able to conduct more research and see better results.
Yeah, I think like what you mentioned before with there being a lot of strengths, it makes us want to be able to use it, but then you have to think of how important validity and reliability is when using an assessment, because if there's no research to back it up, then
what's the point?
Right.
We are never really sure that when we're conducting these assessments that it's really benefiting us as therapists, and therefore it might not be benefiting the clients that we are serving, because they could be just participating in activities and we have a non-valid or non-reliable tool that is assessing them from the start, even in the middle, and then at the end. So overall, we basically think we probably wouldn't use this assessment.
But if they would come out with more recent results of reliability and validity to begin with, then it would be more likely that we would.
Yep. Okay, so that is the end of section A. For section B, we are going to briefly go over how to administer the assessment, how to score it, and how to interpret these scores. After we go through the PowerPoint, we're going to role play a situation where we are CTRSs and we are observing a client, their behavior and their functioning. And then we're going to score those and then interpret why we gave those scores.
So how it is administered, there are 5 general items: attendance, appearance, attitude towards RT, coordination, and posture. There are 10 individual performance items and then 10 group performance items. We'll get into those later on, but they are scored by 2 different therapists and it is based on observation.
Once it's scored by the 2 therapists, then it's generally averaged to help with the validity. How it is scored. So like we just said, the general category has 5 items, the individual performance has 10, and the group performance has 10. Since the number of items varies based on each category, the categories receive separate scoring criteria, but this will be shown on the next slide where we teach you how to interpret the scores. And the ratings are anywhere from 0 to 4, indicating 0 is normal and 4 severe problem. So the higher the score is, the greater the severity. The purpose of the scale is to provide a means of evaluating a client and of reflecting progress or lack of progress by the client in recreational therapy.
So now how is it interpreted? For general, a 0 to 1 would be outstanding, a 2 to 3 would be good, 4 to 5 is functional, and 6 to 20 is problematic. And then for individual and group, a 0 to 1 is outstanding, 2 to 5 good, 6 to 10 functional, and 7 to 40 problematic. So overall, the scores are all added up, and then 0 indicates the lowest severity of problems, and then 100 indicates the highest severity of problems. And scores can be interpreted in their individual categories and overall.
So next, we will be demonstrating this assessment with our clients. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Quinn. My name is Morgan. We are both certified therapeutic recreation specialists. We will be observing our client Liz today with the CERT-Psych R assessment. And to begin, we'll be showing you all how to score each item on the assessment. Our first section is the general category. Okay, Liz, you can come in. So our client receives a 0 for attendance since she attends on time. Our client is wearing appropriate clothing and will receive a 0 for her appearance. Our client is interested but not enthusiastic for her attitude towards RT, so will receive a 1. Our client has a well-coordinated gait and will receive a 0 for coordination. Our client will receive a 0 for posture because she is erect and has good posture, as you can see. Now that we have completed the general category, we will be moving on to individual performance. So Liz, this is what we will be doing today. I have a program ready for you. Hi. Our client is accepted with questions, so she will receive a 0 for her response to therapist structure and one-on-one interaction. Liz, do you want to do the program inside or outside? I don't know. What do you think? Our client seems to need support with her decision making, so this would be a score of 1. Since the weather forecast shows thunderstorms, do you think we should still continue our session outside? I think it would be best to go indoors. This judgment ability will be scored as 0 for having good judgment ability. So Liz, I saw you got coffee with your sister the other day. Yeah, I did, but I didn't really want to. So our client would receive a score of 1 because she was hesitant about the individual relationship. A note for this item is that this is supposed to be evaluated after 3 days, but for the purpose of this informational video, we are going to score it right now. Moving on, another note, there is an A and B category for this item because hostility can be expressed inward or outward. So Liz, how did your time with your sister go? She said some stupid effing things to me. Our client has displayed some cursing and slander, which in turn will result in a 1 for her expression of hostility.
Today we are going to do an art project, Liz, and make tree ornaments.
Okay, how do I do that? Can you show me?
Our client would receive a score of 1 since they need minimal instructions in the organized activity.
Now that we have some free time, Liz, I'm going to let you choose our activity. What would you like to do?
Let's go on a walk.
Since our client freely chose the free time activity with her own initiative, she will receive a 0 for her performance in free time activities.
Client is looking around, so she seems to be very distracted during the activity, so I'd give her a score of 2 due to her frequently not attending and being distracted.
After coming back from the walk, the client was able to participate without getting frustrated. She will receive a 0 for her frustration tolerance level.
The client and I just got back from our free time activity of a walk, and she was only able to participate for about 3/4 of the time and needed some encouragement. This will result in a 1 for strength and endurance.
It is now time for our group activity. We have another client joining us. Her name is Kaylee. We are now going to begin our last section, and we are going to be scoring and interpreting our client Liz, her group performance behaviors. So for the memory and group activities, our client was able to remember most activities that occurred during the group session. This means she will get a score of 1 for memory of group activities.
For response to group structure, can everyone please move to the opposite side of the room?
Why do we have to move?
So our client would receive a score of 1 because she responded to my group instruction well, but she answered with a question.
Okay, who wants to be a leader for the next activity?
I'm not comfortable doing that.
Our client will receive a score of 4 for leadership ability in groups due to her showing no ability as a leader.
So for a group conversation, hi, how are you today? Our client would receive a 4 for group conversations because she was unable to converse with the other group.
Our next item in the group performance was originally titled Sexual Role in Group. Since the updated version of this book, they turned it into reflect problems arising from sexual actions. The reason this item on the assessment has been changed is because during a certain time period, many government agencies had made it illegal to discriminate based on sexual identity. The form in our book still has the original item, so we are going to skip over this item and give a score of 0 as it did not occur.
So for the style of group interaction, our client seems to be withdrawing from the group and participation, so she will receive a 4.
When conflict arose in the group, our client rarely got involved. Her score for handling conflict in a group when indirectly involved will be a 3.
When handling conflict in a group when directly involved, did you steal my pencil?
No, it wasn't me. I'm so sorry.
So our client is directly involved in a client, and she is initially apologetic, so she will receive a 1.
As for competition in a group, time for a group activity. Can you guys stand up? Whoever jumps 5 times will win. Since our client did not even try to win, her score for competition in a group will be a 3.
And then attitude toward group decisions. So I want you all to decide on an activity for us to do next. Let's do a word search.
Okay.
Since our client follows the group decision, she will receive a 0 for her attitude toward the group decision.
Overall, our client's score is a 30 out of 100. For the general category, she only scored a 1, and this indicates that she has outstanding ability in the general category.
For the individual category, she scored an 8, and this shows she has functional ability in the individual performance.
As for her group performance, she scored a 21, and this indicates that her ability in the group performance is problematic.
So overall, this client is moderately high functioning and on the low severity end when observing her behaviors.
Her ability to successfully integrate into society using her social skills shows that she may need improvement in the group performance category.
Thank you all for watching, and we hope you learned a thing or two about the CERT CERT-Psych-R assessment that is commonly used in the field of therapeutic recreation. And thank you to our guests.